Naganda in Jersey City, which I'm guessing is in New Jersey, I guess. All right, anyway, Nagamba writes to me and he says, a lot of pop songs are understandably mastered to sound good on as many devices as possible, and most of them are not hi-fi or highly resolving devices. Case in point, I was listening to Adele's song Easy on Me on my SVS Prime Towers hooked up to an Onkyo receiver. It is a decent system, but I won't call it hi-fi or resolving. I enjoyed the song a lot. It's a great song, but when I hear later that when I listened to it again on my Hi-Fi Man Sundara headphones, it sounded so harsh that I couldn't listen to it. My headphones are a lot more resolving than my speakers, and now I've been thinking about upgrading my speakers and electronics, but if that means I won't enjoy some of my music, is it really worth the investment? That's an age-old classic problem, the double-edged sword of high-end audio. And that's a tough one. That's a tough one because the more resolving the speaker, the more you hear the good and the bad of a particular track. And in my experience, there are a group of speakers like what you're dealing with your SVS, where everything sounds pretty good. The last one I owned that was what's called a high-end speaker, I had a pair of Revels. They were Salons, I think, and Kevin Vakes, the designer. Great speakers. I loved those speakers. Now, this was years ago. This was when we first restarted PS Audio back in the late 1990s, early 2000s. I had built an entire listening room based around those Revel Salon speakers, and I loved it. But I was struggling to hear differences in electronics, and it's my job to hear differences in electronics when we design power plants and P300 or whatever we're designing, the BHK 300s. I got to hear the differences between changes we're making to a device. Otherwise, it's kind of useless. I mean, if everything sounded good, then we might as well just make products like everybody else does. Hey, it measures great, must sound great, done deal, right? Which we know not to be true. So I eventually had to let the Revels go because they just didn't have the resolving power to that. And that brought me back into the realm of, oh boy. So all these things that I really liked, now I can hear the deficiencies in those recordings. But I came to grips with that, and that's kind of what you want. Not every recording is great, right? Not every recording is something that you want to have. You want to peel the onion back and listen to, here it is in all its glory, and you can hear everything. We were just at a show, and we had these FR30s are some of the most resolving speakers. Well, I will say this, I know this all sounds like, a hype, but it's not. These are the single most resolving speakers I have ever heard in the 50 years that I have done this. Even compared to quads, and that's amazing. And a lot of it's due to the fact that it is kind of like a quad from, up because of its ribbon. But anyway, so we are at the Hi-Fi show. My son Scott is sitting in the listening chair, and what were we playing? Oh, we were playing one of the Octave releases, one of my favorites, the Fox Feather release, The Nature of Things. And Jay Elliott, the recording engineer, really likes his compressors. And Carly, who is the main singer, she knocks it out. She just belts it out. And he likes to put a compressor on it. So when she really gets loud into that microphone, you're not clipping. Because the downside of not having a compressor, obviously, is you either have to have her, so much dynamic range that you don't hear her when she gets soft, and on and on and on, right? Scott's heard that, I don't know how many times, but not on the FR30s. So as he's listening, he goes, oh my gosh, what just happened? She started singing loud and the whole quality of her voice changed. What happened? You heard the compressor, because compressors have a sound to them when they do their work. And he was like, I've never heard that before. And I asked him, I said, was it objectionable? He goes, no, it was cool. It didn't make the music sound worse, but it also has that bit to it to where, like, I didn't hear that before, and now I'm hearing it. And you notice things that you didn't. So it's always the double-edged sword. Last thing I'll say about that is, as you go through the various levels, at some point, like these speakers, they have transcended this issue to the point where not everything sounds great, but everything is very musical sounding. I haven't been able to listen to old recordings of the Doors. On the IRS, if you put on LA Woman, you can hear it's very resolving, but it's not all that enjoyable. So I kind of stayed away from it. Put it on the FR30, you even hear more of what's going on, but all of a sudden, I'm really enjoying it. In fact, a few days ago, we published I took a little iPhone video and captured it because it was just, now granted, we had had 2 or 3 glasses of wine, but I got to tell you, it was marvelous sounding. So yes, you can have both, but it's expensive, it's hard. And is it worth it? Really depends. You have to think that one through. For me, no question about it. I have a pair of speakers, the KEF LS50s, at home, which are not very resolving. And they're great for background listening. I love them, but not for what this temple of sound is all about. I could never go there, but your mileage may vary. All right. Hope that answers your question, and thanks for asking it. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.